This is Empowered Human Academy. Welcome home.
You are lovable, important, and valuable. And if you say it to yourself, the first times you say it out loud, you will probably cry. If you're anything like me, because it's so true, and it's 100% true for everyone.
This is about love. This is about light. This is about the idea that you have everything you will ever need.
And this life of yours, this is where you grow, you expand, and you remember who you really are.
I'm Abe.
I'm Isaac.
In Empowered Human Academy, we join with humans of all kinds to feel the inspiration that can only come with empowered living.
The stories you hear today are unique, but the energy you hear today belongs to you too. So, with hearts wide open, let's begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Conversation series with Abe and Isaac. Today, we're chatting with my and our dear friend, Trisha McDonald. I've known Trisha McDonald for a long time. We did a high school leadership camp all the way back in 2005. So we've known each other for over 15 years, and we've been through a lot together. We've always been in separate states, but we've stayed connected through Instagram and through telephone calls and through visits. And we're so excited to have her on the show today.
We like to open up by asking a question about self-determined identity, right? Like not necessarily in terms of vocation or family or whatever, but what identity words do you choose for yourself? Who do you feel like you are?
I love that. I think that's so important to have a strong sense of identity. And for me, it's about my story. And my story is constantly evolving. And who I am is evolving. But I am somebody who is loving, who is generous, who is always willing to share, who's open, and who's willing to learn. I feel like I'm a forever learner. And those are some of the broader things that define me. But I'm an auntie, I am a professional, I am a tremendous friend, I am a daughter, I am a granddaughter, and so many more things. I am a sister, and I'm a woman who supports other women and men too. I identify as a feminist, and so I think there's a lot of things that define who I am, and those things are constantly evolving with me on my journey.
When you say it's about your story, what do you mean by that? Is it like the chronology, or are you focusing more on how things evolve in the moment, identifying a thread through that? What do you mean by story?
Yeah, so oftentimes when you find people who've had a lot of trials and tribulations in life, they get to choose how they write that story and how they talk about themselves, and how they can take that moment in time, or maybe it's actually a glorious moment, something they're really prideful about, and it's using that story to help share and shape with others and to tell themselves who they are. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. Myself, I was part of the U.S. Air Force, and during that time I worked in foreign intelligence, and I was able to help make a tremendous impact in our operations overseas. And I recognized that I was a very young in my career at that point in my life. I was retired from the military and a veteran by the time I was 23 years old. Now, I get to choose if I'm going to tell that story, or if I'm going to talk about my experience and say, that was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And some of the challenges I had were seeing people in combat, U.S. soldiers and civilians, being a woman, and really being defined by that in the military, and that creating a lot of hardships for me. So I can talk about those things, or I can talk about the high. And it's my option every single day to choose how I write that story and where I want to place myself in that story.
Wow. Is that a discipline that you've built up over time, or has that always been very natural to you? Like the consciousness of the fact that you have that choice in the storytelling?
That's a great question. Every single day, the more I think about who I am, the easier it gets to tell those stories.
Oh,
The
cool.
more open I am with my friends, with my family, and the people I encounter, the better. Because in the past, I took a lot of those stories and I just held them so close to my heart, and I didn't want to share them. I wasn't ready to share them. So I wasn't processing those stories. Those stories were frozen in time for me. But now today, the more I talk about those stories or other parts about me, the more open I am with people and sharing, the more they share with me too. And so refining my story is something I'm constantly working on, and knowing my audience and their intentions from our conversation is a really big piece of which parts of the story I bring out.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. Do you feel compelled? Like, is it a motivating factor to see other people engage in that as well, and to choose how they tell their stories, or is it purely your self-determination, if I can put it that way, like the way that you handle your own storytelling, and that's a nice side effect that you also see other people opening up as well? Does that make sense? Like, is it also motivating to help other people open, or is it something that you enjoy seeing as you conduct yourself?
Yeah, so vulnerability is such a gift. And the more we're vulnerable with other individuals, the more they're willing to share with us. Or maybe it's sometimes the more they're willing to help us, or the more that they might want to give us exactly what we want in life. So I think it really changes depending on the situation. When I'm going into a job interview, or when somebody else is going into a job interview, I ask my friends to open up with a story, because if I go into a job interview and I say, my name is Trisha, I'm from Fargo, North Dakota, and this is where I went to college, and I'm really not telling that person too many personal things. But if I came in and I said, just for example, my name is Trisha McDonald. I am a mother of 3. I am aspiring to grow and learn in my career, and I'd like to do that by X, Y, and Z. And I'm really excited that you're giving me an opportunity. That completely shifts the conversation. I'm telling them, what's my why? My why is that I want to be a grower and a learner, so I can set an example for my family at home. And so I actually think that we have the chance to choose that story, and it can be different all the time. It can evolve with you.
Totally. And a reason why we're chatting with you is because you have exemplified all of these things: finding your why, becoming vulnerable, understanding your narrative, and understanding that your narrative can be shifted by your perception of yourself and your perception of the world. And that's why it's really such an exciting and I think important topic to talk about. Because I think that once we understand some of these concepts, we're able to better our relationships with ourselves, with our partners, with the world around us, right? So has there been a time in your life where vulnerability was hard for yourself or for others, or with others?
Yes, absolutely. So back when I was 19 years old, I was in college. I was an eager student. I was involved in the student government and doing a lot of different things. And I always took pride in knowing who people were. When I met them, I would remember their name and their face. Well, I ended up going through a very traumatic stroke around Christmas of that school year. And during that time, it completely impaired my speech, and I lost a lot of memory of people that I knew. So I would, after that, come encounter with people that I knew I should know, but I couldn't identify them. I couldn't even remember what we had done together or how I knew them, where that affiliation was. And I really, really struggled. I struggled to be open. I struggled to tell my story because I had a stutter, and that, to me, my tongue felt very heavy, felt like I couldn't say the words that I wanted to say or get out of my mouth. And for the longest time after that, I didn't tell my story. And I didn't talk about that episode for a very long time because I didn't want it to define me, and I was still processing what it meant. From the outside, my heart was repaired, I was healthy, I looked like myself, but I didn't feel like myself inside. And so during that time, I was going through some other traumatic events as well, and it just all bottled up. And it really weighed me down. And it wasn't until I was about 24 years old that I started thinking back and looking at how much I had been through and how much I had overcome, but yet how much pain there still was. And so that was a part of my life where it was really, really difficult for me to be vulnerable.
And how did you overcome that pain? How did you overcome that kind of resistance or that block that you had due to pain to become vulnerable with yourself?
So for me, I decided I would spend a lot of time and actually dedicated an entire year to, and I know that this is a gift and not everybody has the opportunity to do this, but I dedicated a year to volunteering and doing some travel. And through that service work, through helping others, I saw myself in a lot of that, in a lot of the people we were serving. I saw myself in their stories. I wanted to show up for them. I wanted to be strong. And if I was going to help somebody else, I had to revisit the things that were hurting me. And I had to help myself. And so if there's ever a moment where I'm inside my own head and I'm struggling and things aren't clear, and maybe it's I'm more irritable than normal. Maybe I am overly stressed out. During those times, I decide to do something for somebody else. Anything. Buy somebody a cup of coffee that you don't know. Send a message to a friend that you love or a family member, letting them know how important they are to you. And that immediately changes the conversation. And I've actually found a couple different ways that can help me right at the beginning of conversations, change the dynamic of them, if you want me to share.
Yeah, for sure.
Please, yeah.
Okay. So when I meet somebody, there's two things that I usually decide to do. I either lead with gratitude, because I can get very nervous. Especially in my career at work, when I'm meeting new organizations, I immediately sort of bottle up and I close myself off because of those nerves. But if I decide I'm going to lead with gratitude and just say, I'm so grateful for the impact that your organization makes, for the opportunity to get to speak with you today, for the other individuals that took the time to come to this meeting. And if I lead with gratitude, I can take a deep breath, I can put my shoulders back, and it sets the tone of the conversation. Then everybody knows that you're there with great intentions. Or another way that I like to lead is really coming from a place of feeling what the other person is feeling. So for instance, during COVID, everybody knows that we've gone through isolating times and like a lot of hardships. And it's resonated with everybody different. And with a lot of businesses that I speak to today, their employees are impacted. It impacted people's jobs, and they might be working at home, but they're also doing distance learning. And so there's a lot to the complex world and nature of what they're doing every day. So if I start and I say, I just want to recognize you have been going through a lot. Your changes, that's a lot. We've all been going through a lot with COVID. How are you doing? And if I really come from a place of trying to understand that person, it just helps. They immediately feel seen and heard, and we can have a much more open and dynamic conversation from there. And and it helps me too. It helps me realize where that person is at so that we can just talk about the things that are appropriate.
Totally. Those are beautiful. And what I love about you is that I've seen you in different contexts and you're super genuine through all of it, right? Behind closed doors, in front of an audience. And that's why I really appreciate you, because when you do ask how people are, you truly want to know. And you get into those conversations because it's a practice for you. It's not just like, I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do. It's like you want to do it. And then it allows for people to be who they are and to open up a more open communication stream, which is really beautiful. In your life, a big part of this course is to understand that you have the capacity and the agency to build the life of your dreams through unfucking your mind and enjoying the process and all of these different things that I think are important to living a fulfilled life. What have you had to overcome, and what is your why now, if that makes sense?
Wow, that's a big one. So coming from where I was raised, I think that some of the earliest things that we all learn to overcome is identifying with family or creating our own identity. And we can either continue to live in this view of the world that the world puts us in, right? I'm from the Midwest. I'm from what someone might consider a normal middle-class family. I can either identify with those things or I can move beyond that. So from the earliest ages, growing up in the Midwest, I felt like there was a glass ceiling on my head. I was raised by a family where nobody was college educated, but everybody was small business owners, hardworking individuals that worked in factories, that did all kinds of different jobs across the city. And I saw them as very important individuals. And it was while I was growing up that I could either take pride in my roots in the area of the U.S. that I was from, and say this is where a majority of the nation's yield and crop is from, and I can take a lot of pride in different aspects of that community, or I can shut my back to it and say, well, this isn't where I want to identify, because growing up, a lot of my friends, their families were extremely wealthy, whether it was oil, whether it was agriculture, whether it was they owned a majority of the businesses. And it just so happened to me that if you were a boy in those families, you automatically were seen in a light, whereas you're going to take on this huge responsibility. And I felt as a woman, as a girl raised in that community, I didn't see a lot of female leaders. I didn't have exposure to female business leaders, and I didn't know where my path was. I couldn't see myself I couldn't see myself really exceeding in the community. And so growing up, I had to overcome figuring things out. How do you go from I haven't had exposure into the business world to I want to be somebody who has a career that can take them anywhere. So I have aspirations of traveling abroad, of working abroad, of being able to lead teams and being able to lead global go-to-market strategy for one of the world's biggest tech companies in a given geography overseas. And those aspirations are things that I had to build. They are things that I had to seek exposure to. So overcoming those things, I think, was the biggest hurdle. And then also not being defined by gender, by upbringing, by people's stereotypes of where you are from, and also what people think you can do. I remember I was in high school, and it's funny how these things stick with you. I think everybody has a memory like this. And I was sitting across from my peers at a table, and they said, well, what are you going to do after high school? And I said, I'm going to join the military, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to travel the world. And I remember somebody tipping their shoulders back and having a deep belly laugh and going like, oh, it's not going to be easy. Wow, like that's what you think you're going to do? And not being defined by those moments, taking those moments and putting a bigger smile on your face and saying, I'm going to do all that and then some. So you just wait. And you're not doing those things for anybody else, you're doing them for you.
Yes.
So I would say overall, that's probably the biggest thing that I'm constantly overcoming, is that everything is new. There's a lot of things that I'm learning all the time, and just being open to that.
That's awesome. You've chosen for yourself, or you've been in many different chapters, it sounds like, and you've done a lot of different things. Is there a common thread, or what are the common threads, maybe plural, of joy that you find in all of these things? Like, where do you find yourself lighting up? What do these contexts have in common?
This might seem funny, but my greatest joy is yes, I love working with global nonprofit organizations on their technology strategy, and getting to see the impact that they make in the field and getting to translate that back to their leadership. One would think that that's what I love most about my job, because it's the core of what I do every day. But what I actually love most is seeing people who are young in their career and hearing from them and getting to share any insight with them, but mostly just being a listening ear and an advocate for them, because it reminds me of that spark that we all have. It's that eagerness, the willingness, the gratitude that's expressed, and that initial taste of exposure to them for something a little bit bigger than what they're currently doing, and how that just fills their cup. And getting to have those conversations with people that are young in career and figuring out which direction they want to go motivates me so much.
Oh, that's really, really cool. Can you tell us about, like, just without names or without whatever details you want to leave out, can you tell us about one of those times where you got to connect with somebody on that, or got to work with somebody who was in that phase as well?
Yeah, so I actually interface with someone who is a mentee at least twice a week or more. And there are people that I've had relationships now for 5 years or more. And there's one individual over this past year, whereas we were going to speak to a nonprofit organization, and he was just so excited and he was just so motivated. And then he got in front of that organization and he showed off one of our devices, and he told their story. And everyone in the audience went, well, this is the best presentation we had ever seen, because he intimately knew their mission. And after we got off the phone that day, he said to me, that organization helped me so much when we were growing up. And that's when I went, oh, wow, I had chills. I thought, of course you could tell their story so well because you knew it. And getting to see that excitement, because in his mind, it was his chance to give back to that organization. That was one of the most heartfelt moments for me over this past year with a mentee.
Wow. I'm tearing up, actually. You're also a very good storyteller. I've known that about you for a long time. That's incredibly special. I had another question and I just completely lost it. That was an important thing. Oh, I know what it was. So I'm very curious about, just in general, how people go about the mentee mentorship thing. And you mentioned that this person was your mentee. Is this a practice that you've had for a long time, or are you mentored what is your relationship to mentoring and being mentored? What does that look like for you?
So Microsoft has really formalized that process for me in my mind. I've always known that some people were mentors to me, though it was unspoken, it was unsaid. It was, I know this person is giving me some really good guidance that I want to hear right now. And it's nice that they're willing to let me do that one time or to keep in touch with them. But at Microsoft, we have a culture of mentorship, and it is seen as one of the most important things that you can do. So if there's ever anybody that I want to reach out to for guidance, obviously within a certain realm of the chain of command, because I can't necessarily email Satya and ask him for mentorship, but if it's anybody within an arm's reach, a couple levels above where I am in a role, I can reach out to them at any time and put time on their calendar, which is such a gift. And then vice versa. So I oftentimes in any given week have people just putting time on my calendar to learn more about my career path and my role. And I think overall it just leads to a beautiful ecosystem of people who understand each other and who can see a path for themselves in the company.
Yeah.
So that's more of a formal mentorship process. However, in our daily lives and what I've actually through my boyfriend, I have learned his style of mentorship, which is so different. He seeks out mentors in areas where he wants to grow. So if it's in learning about a specific type of investment or real estate, he makes it a point to reach out to those mentors. And he formalizes it himself by having a couple points that he will ask them to speak to him about by being 100% vulnerable. So he opens up and shares some things that are personal for him and his wise. And at the end, he does such a good job of follow-up and expressing gratitude. So if he gets a result from the insight that they've given him, he lets them know just what a big impact that was. So it's cool to see him just naturally doing that. Nobody taught him that. It was something that he's been seeking out.
Cool. That reminds me of our communication with you insofar as, like, I've always known you to be super diligent isn't the right word, but they're like, because it's always genuine. You're always very present and earnest in your communication, and your follow up and follow through has always been inspirational to me. That's been a weaker point on my side, and so I've learned from you on the care for relationships, and that's the thing that I'm still learning. So thank you for that example.
Thank you.
So if someone struggles with vulnerability or opening up or asking someone to help them, what have you seen, maybe through your mentors, mentees, maybe through your self-experiment / self-experience? What advice would you give them to, like, overcome that? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So if you are feeling scared, I don't blame you. We all are scared inside. There's things that each of us are that can be terrifying for us. And I think it's just taking a moment to recognize where you are in your story. And I'll give you an example. Last year I was at a conference and I got there and there was only about 30 of us and we were in a beautiful skyscraper in Seattle. And I looked around the room and I went, wow, there's a lot of really amazing, impressive people here. And my breath was getting shorter. And then I had to stand up to introduce myself. And for some reason, I just broke down and started crying. And my heart was racing. And I went to the restroom. And it was my first time having a panic attack of that nature. And at the time, in the next days, I didn't know what I had experienced. But a couple weeks later, and in seeking some help, I actually realized that I was having imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I was important enough to be there with those individuals at that time. And I didn't know why I was there. And so taking a moment to recognize where that fear is coming from and what it actually means in your heart. Why is it that you feel so scared? Are you scared of maybe failing? Are you scared of maybe not being accepted? Are you scared that you're not going to be able to achieve what you want? Once you recognize that, and once you recognize where that fear is coming from, hopefully you'll be able to start overcoming the fear. But it's just taking the time. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be terrified, but just recognize your value. And so if you are feeling that way, I tell this to myself all the time, and I tell this to other people too. You are lovable, important, and valuable. You are lovable, important, and valuable. And if you say it to yourself, the first times you say it out loud, you will probably cry. If you're anything like me, because it's so true, and it's 100% true for everyone. And if you see other people in that light, that they are lovable, important, and valuable, it doesn't matter if they are on the street and they may not have shelter over their head, or it doesn't matter if they are your cashier that day. They're going through their own struggles too, but they are lovable, important, and valuable. And if you treat them that way, you will treat yourself that way, and you will prioritize yourself, and some of the fear will wash away.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah. And I think once you really take a look into those words and start to feel them and meditate with them, because sometimes it might be easy to just be like, oh, you're loved. Like, but what does it actually feel like? Focusing on what it feels like, focusing on what that looks like in your life and that feels like for you. Like, it's such a powerful practice. Mm-hmm. I've been doing that a lot with, my A-100 journey. Like, you can do this. Like, you are strong enough to do this. Like, and the more I pump myself up, the more success I have at the end of the day, because I'm my own champion at the end of the day, right? And I feel like, you've been able to do that in so many parts of your life, in personal and career, which is really inspiring. So thanks for sharing that story.
And that journey is so impressive, and it's moved so many people. I get messages from friends and family that maybe haven't even met Abe before, and they are like, he is inspiring me. I'm going to go do this. And my aunt, who's really close to me too, she has recognized that Abe's journey could be her journey, and she is on a mission now, and she watches every post, and she's seeing amazing results, and it makes me so proud that you are your own champion, and that you've recognized that you've set your mind to something and you are going for it. It's so cool.
Thank you. Pivoting a little bit, what have you had to undo for yourself in your mind that has like led to something beautiful?
I can think of a few things. So I've been in a relationship for the last 3.5 years, and the whole first probably 1.5 years of the relationship, maybe even a little longer, I felt unworthy. I felt like this is too good to be true. This is happening to me, and this person is here for me, and they're so loving, and I felt loved, and I felt a little unworthy of that person's time and attention. and I craved it. I craved it so much. In fact, it was the number one thing that I wanted, and that I still want all the time. And then it's that companionship. And so for me, it was, I don't know that I ever really recognized where that unworthiness feeling was coming from. And I don't even know that I knew it was there at first. But it was that desire to have him feel the same way that I felt about him, that it was going to be mutual. And it was something that I wanted so bad that it was almost unnatural at first. And it was easier to hide that because it was a long distance relationship, which eventually evolved, and we live in the same place now, which is beautiful. But so overcoming my worth in relationships, that was a big one. Overcoming certain traumas for me. For example, when I left the military, there were three things that I really struggled with. First was the things that my little eyes had seen. I felt a bit of guilt. I was like, well, I was a part of war, and I never thought, I didn't put two and two together that there was something in that would be unglorious, that it could lead to a lot of shame. It could lead to a lot of fear too of sharing that story. So I was dealing with the fear that I had around what I had seen and experienced and contributed to. Yeah. I was dealing with a lot of trauma from sexual harassment and sexual assault. That I'm talking about being stalked, I would lock myself in a room because I was so scared of the people that I worked with. And so I was dealing with that whole part of it. And I was also dealing with impostor syndrome, that I actually was a veteran, because in the US, most people who are veterans have served overseas. But now with intelligent warfare and the drone space, you can be a veteran and have served stateside. So for 3 years, I might be on a mission 1 minute, and later that day going to college, and then having a family dinner with my family. And so that imposter syndrome, that I was a veteran, that I had contributed to something important, and that I was worthy of that title, and that other people would see me as such, because other veterans would go, what do you mean you didn't serve overseas and you're a veteran? It just didn't make any sense to them. So those three things for me weighed heavily, and there was no method or magic and I would say so some days there's still parts of it that come out, because no matter how much you work through these things, they can slip out or be triggered at any moment. So for me, being a woman and knowing that I've dealt with some sexual harassment, when I meet somebody who may be in a superior role to me, because of the way the world works, I go, oh, it's a male. I might be in danger here, or I need to protect. But that's so not true. And the more time goes on, the less I think that when I meet somebody that they're out to get me. So it's working through things, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but the more you can talk about it, for me, I'm a oral processor. I need to say everything. And if, as I say it, I recognize it, I hear it back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
What makes that work worth it for you? Why is it worth it to do the work, put in the time to heal these things and to establish, a better internal narrative, something that's healthy for you? Why do you do that for yourself?
That's a good question.
Because not everybody does.
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, the thing that is important is knowing where some of the fear and pain are coming from, so that way it's not misplaced, because I can easily misplace it in other relationships, and people are so important to me that I never want to hurt them. So for instance, in my relationship with my boyfriend, something from my past can easily trigger me in any given moment. And if I can't recognize that, I can displace that emotion and cast it on something that's completely irrelevant. We had a fight once over a cooler, and for me, that cooler represented him not being ready to make space for me in our life. And so it's the silliest things, and just taking a moment for me to know where that fear is coming from is big. But ultimately, I want to do big things in my life, and I don't want to dream small. And in order to get to where I want to go, I have to feel confident. And feeling confident for me, there's a lot of healing that comes with that journey.
I love that. You are a powerhouse, and you are one of the most talented people I know. And I want to know can you share with the people watching, what does it feel like to wake up every day knowing that you are, impacting the world as you're pretty, you have a pretty influential job with right now. And as a woman, I find that amazing because I love seeing women leaders crushing it. What does it feel like for you?
I would say it's only in those moments where I pause with a glass of champagne and raise my glass that I actually recognize it most days. Oftentimes, I feel like I'm in the grind and I am working so hard, so fast. There's so much happening. It's extremely dynamic that I don't take a moment to recognize it. I do, though, a few times a year, just pause, whether it's after a milestone, whether it's closing a deal at work, or it's a big payout, or it is a moment where I feel like I've contributed to the stock price, or better than any of those things, when I actually get to see my customers' success and I get to hear them repeat back how impactful the technology is to their mission. Those moments for me are those, we did something. We made a difference. This is worth it. This is worth it. But I don't wake up every day and go, woo, yay for me. But maybe I should. And I maybe need to do that more. I have more victorious moments after a workout.
Yeah.
I feel like I just overcame something that I didn't want to do. But I feel good after. But yeah, I actually could do a much better job at feeling like a powerhouse. Thank you. I don't know that anyone's described me in such words. I really appreciate that.
I mean, all of the people that I know who know you are just so impressed with you. And because not only your mind and not only how you show up, but it's just how you flow through life with you've lived abroad, many times you've traveled the world, you work for a huge corporation, but at the end of the day, you're still Trisha, and you're continually growing and learning. And that's what I always respect about people who are successful and who are smart, and that they're always purposeful and becoming better, right? Because we're never done, right? This is why we're having this conversation, because who we are today is definitely different who we're going to be next year, which is fine. And it's beautiful. And may we always be aware of who we are at any given moment, so we can understand where we've come from and where we want to go. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, if you need some help doing that, I'll text you to remind you that you're a powerhouse.
I appreciate it.
I think there's an important lesson there in what you're saying, that if we see somebody for all that we may, our attention may jump to their accomplishments or their position or our perception of their impact, they may not be living in that reality themselves at any given moment. And when we see that in our friends, reminding them of the badass that I see in you, that sort of thing, and doing that for ourselves too, that does seem quite critical. I feel that too, as in the work that I'm doing. I could definitely wake up more often and be oh wait, this is let me take in the view. Let me not just grind in the hike, but let me take in the view from here. And it's not bad. That's pretty cool.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And yeah, being an entrepreneur, having a team, motivating them, growing a company, these are huge accomplishments, and it's happening every day. It's it doesn't stop. So you have to just pause, I guess, and celebrate that, and look for some small wins too.
Well, and celebrating the small wins, I think, helps, you continue the momentum in building, right? I'm not at my goal weight now, but I'm celebrating every day the fact that we are building something.
Yes.
I see that in both of you, really purposeful, positive language around to yourself and to the people around you. Whether or not you feel like you pause often enough for this sort of thing or not. I know that at least in the years that I've known you, Trisha, I know that you do it's just a constant stream of positive language from you about the people around you, about the context that you're in. I see that as a very purposeful perspective. That's my perception anyway. And that's super inspiring. I want to ask you, given the lifelong learning that you've embarked on, what are you learning right now? What lesson is making itself real to you?
Yeah, so during this period of COVID, I have felt very isolated. And there have been times where it's translated into, I actually just feel lonely. And I've stewed over this, I've cried over this, I've reached out to lots of friends and family, and I go, wow, there's so many people that are around me that I can call, that I love, and they love me back, and that's a gift, but I still feel lonely. And I didn't know where this sense of loneliness was coming from. And I was listening to a podcast. I love consuming media. So listening to a podcast where somebody had shared that the root cause of loneliness is not feeling that connection to oneself and their identity. And I go, oh my gosh, I know identity is so, so important. And I thought I had identity and I knew what that was. But then I took a step back and I realized that 2.5 years ago, I moved to a new city where I only knew a couple people. My family wasn't around. I took such pride in being a great aunt and being there for my grandmas, and my family was a big part of my identity. I moved away from a physical office, so I work from home now, but I love being in that workplace culture and getting to see people learning and growing every day, and I was such a big part of that corporate culture and the office culture and all the friends there. I moved away from friends that saw me for all of me. They knew my whole story. We had very close, intimate relationships, and I saw them for their whole story, and that was a really fun thing. And in moving to this new space, I lost touch of self, and I had to rewrite who my identity was in this new place. And my identity showed up differently here. I became more of a globetrotter in the corporate world. I became somebody who had really strong and big aspirations each year as I set forth my goals for my career. And I was very, very laser focused on where I was going in my career, that a lot of the relationships I built were not they didn't go to the depths of friendships. And so I went on different apps like Bumble BFF or Meetup, or I went on Facebook to look for events, and I was like, oh, it's COVID and all these things. It's really hard to just connect with people. But then I thought back and it was like, no, find your sense of self. And if I know myself, if I feel connected to myself, if I'm taking time for myself, then the loneliness has sort of been washing away. And the last 2 weeks, since I've recognized that, the weight has lifted. I don't have tears about being lonely. I have everything that I need within me, and all these extra friends and family and all these other great relationships that I have and that I'm building are just added gifts. So
I love that.
Wow. I feel that's so hard. Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
That's really beautiful. 2 final questions.
Okay.
One, what does an empowered Trisha look like and feel like?
So an empowered Trisha allows for others to shine. I don't need all the glory. I don't need to take center stage. I need to open up the time and let other people share, let other people rise, and root them on as they go forth in their career. And so I don't need to take center stage. That's what an empowered Trisha looks like. And another empowered Trisha, what does empowered Trisha look like? It is recognizing that I'm worthy. I'm worthy of a raise. I'm worthy of anything that I want to get for myself or do for myself, or any aspiration that I have. I'm worthy of it all. And that's what an empowered Trisha looks like.
Wow. That's super cool to hold both sides of that simultaneously. Like, on the one hand, I am 100% worthy of everything. And also in my space of empowerment, other people get to shine too. To have both of those together and as your immediate answers to that question, that's a super cool combination.
It's really beautiful. Final question. What do you know for sure?
I know for sure that you two are such a gift and a blessing, and you're sharing so much with everybody at home. And I hope that I hope, not that I hope, I know for sure that everybody who's watching today has gifts to share with the world. And I hope that you rise, and I hope that you stay strong, because you can do anything that you put your mind and your heart to. And I believe in you, and Abe and Isaac believe in you. And so you've got a community, and we're all on this journey together, and we're never ever done. But I know for sure that everybody who's made an investment in time and resources to take these courses, you should be very proud of yourselves.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Trisha. You are a blessing to us and the people watching. We're just so grateful for your mind and your heart. And we'll put some information, a little bio about you, so people can reach out if they want or stay connected. But we really love today. Thank you so much for being you.
Thank you. I love you guys. And if anyone's out there, please reach out on LinkedIn if I can do anything for you. Love to connect with you. So.
Love.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
This podcast is the work of Lightward, our company, named for that toward the light direction which informs every single thing that we do, including money, which means, like everything else, the way we earn revenue is not based on industry norms. It's based on what feels deeply right and aligned by passing through the door that feels like it has more behind it, not less. And the way we keep this podcast going is all Lightward. It's pay what feels good. It's an exchange of value between you and us. We're keeping conventional podcast advertising totally out of this. And here's how Pay What Feels Good works. We give you this episode because it feels good to do so. And you consider, honestly, what number of dollars this episode is genuinely worth to you. I do not care if that's $3, $1,000, or literally $0 and a heart emoji, as long as that trade genuinely makes your day better. And the energy there is the entire point. That is what we're building our business on. No advertisers, no selling your attention, just you and us, trading value in a way that builds us both up. So whatever the number, when you're done listening, head to empoweredhumanacademy.com and hit the Pay What Feels Good button. We use this policy across all of our company's work, and I'm really excited to bring it here to the world of podcasts. This is us voting for the world we want to see. Thank you for being here.